Yeah, this is the nothing is safe part.
That was so much fun. Oh my god.
The audacity.
Horns and claws and fangs. And, yeah.
Hi, we're the Reading Queens, and we're here to blab about our favorite books, why we love them, and the book boyfriends we wish were real. And we're back for another episode. Rose is dancing because she's very excited.
I am excited.
And so am I. I'm Valia.
I'm Hanna.
I'm Rose.
And I'm Stacey.
Yeah, and this is our trope episode. So yeah, we are very pumped to be here. We had a little pre-talk or pre-show talk, and we're ready. We're ready for this. But how's everybody? Actually, first of all, after we recorded, after we recorded last week, we found out that Rose and Stacey have never seen Stardust, and that was their homework for the week. So I want to ask, did you do your homework?
Okay, let me just say real quick before we answer this, is that I did not realize that was homework. I'm like, what? That was actual homework? So...
Yes.
Yeah, that's a definite no.
Look, in school, I was not the person that ever did my homework. And I did my homework,
so
pat on the back.
Yeah.
I did. I watched it.
I'm so proud of Stacey.
Yay! Clap, clap, clap.
Okay, so Stacey then, what are your thoughts?
It was really cute. It was fun. I liked it. It had kind of like a Princess Bride kind of feel, like this like quirky, funny fairy tale fantasy. It was fun. I liked it.
Yep. Yeah, I love that movie. So Rose.
Okay. When's Rose back on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next time you come back to the podcast, you have to have watched Stardust.
I honestly am going to have to put that down and write it somewhere because I will forget that tomorrow. What?
We will remind you.
Yeah, y'all have to like
we will
nudge me and send me little like, hey,
add it to your goals on the Slack.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, gosh. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to have to put that on there and then just kind of rotate it every time until I get to it. But I did see a movie.
We'll just comment on it.
I did see a movie yesterday. Okay.
And?
So it's been out for a while, but I finally saw King Kong versus Godzilla.
My son has an obsession with Godzilla, so I've seen it.
Oh, my gosh.
I have not seen it.
It was so
I'm the odd one
good.
out.
I love monster movies, and I felt like that one was like the best. So like when the Skull Island came out, I was really excited because I was like, oh, it has like the monster like fighting scenes that are like outside of the humans, you know, because with the Godzilla, especially the first one, like the new first one, it was like 20% Godzilla and like 80% people, and I'm like, I just want to see Godzilla, you know. But with Skull Island, they actually had like the fights. Well, the Kong versus Godzilla was like mostly fights, so I'm like, yes.
It was so crazy. I mean, just some of those scenes with Godzilla in his mouth and loud, and the fire coming out, and he had all that blue. I don't even know what that blue stuff was coming out of his mouth.
It's like radioactive fire or whatever he has.
My 6-year-old son would know. Would you like to ask him?
Consult an expert.
Can you tell us?
No, he's at home yet.
I'm sitting there the whole movie, and I'm like, why is he blue? Okay, so the blue stuff was coming out, and the King Kong was pissed, and everyone was angry. Oops, I shouldn't have said that. Everyone was everyone was fighting, and it was so good.
I thought the CGI in that was exceptional because that's like, I thought it was really, really well. Like it looked real, you know, which I feel like recently in movies, they don't look real as they should. You know what I mean? Like we've come so far in some of these movies. I'm like, well, I could see the green screen or whatever, you know. But in this one, it was like now I'm fangirling because I freaking love those movies.
Like all the little hairs on King Kong's body, you could see them kind of fluttering, and I was like, whoa.
I don't know if that's winning me over. I'm like, I need to see King Kong's hair flutter.
I wasn't overly impressed, but I don't think I'm impressed by the monstrous aspects. I did like the little girl's relationship with King Kong. Like that was fun.
But
that
was cool.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I've watched a lot of Godzilla movies in the last few months, so I'm a little desensitized.
That's awesome.
I sometimes like monster movies, but I'm not like a diehard Godzilla or King Kong fan, so I don't like always notice when there's new ones. I love Pacific Rim. See, there we go. That's what I
There
like.
That
you
was
go.
good. Yeah.
My mom spent most of the Godzilla vs. Kong movie because we watched it at home when it first came out because they had that HBO Max thing.
Yeah.
So we watched it at home, and my mom spent the whole movie being, "Oh, be nice to King Kong. Oh, be nice to," like she was just so concerned about Kong the whole movie. It was so cute.
I am with your mom because the whole entire time I was like, just let him go home.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
Exactly.
all he wanted was to go home, and that's like, I just love King Kong in general because he's such a tragic character because
It's true.
Yes, he's taken out of his home and all this stuff happens to him. It's like, geez, leave him alone, people.
Yes.
It's tragic.
We're like, this is a sympathy King
Yes.
Kong podcast.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, that's a good movie. I love monster movies, but we all know, like, I love horror movies. I love all that stuff. So during like the 2020 lockdown time where I spent every weekend at home, I made my parents go through like all the Jurassic Park movies and all like the Kong movies and all this everything. I was like, my mom is not a monster fan, but I was like, no, like this is my turn to pick movies, and they're like, yeah, it's your turn, so we'll watch it. And so we watched it, and she was just like, okay, I get it, like we're good, and then when the Kong versus Godzilla came out, finally she was like, oh, I'm ready to watch this, because she's like been brought up to speed, and then the whole time she's just like, oh, Kong. It was just so cute. But
that is awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
Me too.
Anyway, Hannah, did you do anything exciting this week?
I'm trying to remember now. It's been pretty warm here. So we've been like, I got my kids a very small kiddie pool for the backyard, which makes them very happy.
Oh, yay.
It's hilarious because it's like inflatable, but only, like my older daughters are 9 and 11, so it's like knee high on them. But they were begging me for this kiddie pool, and I knew that like my youngest is 4, so she's perfect for it. But so then yesterday they just like spent all day in this.
Aww.
Like 1 foot of water.
That's all you need.
I need to get them to the beach is what I need to do. But it was pretty funny that, they were like so obsessed with this kiddie pool.
I love it.
Did I tell you about our rooster? We got a rooster.
No.
Wait.
Because did I tell you about like the chick? I told you about the chicken drama.
Yes.
When our chicken passed away. Oh, and I did have to tell my 4-year-old eventually. Aww. And then afterwards, she keeps asking questions like weeks later, like, but Mama, people don't die, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness,
no.
I don't know what to do.
You're like, I'm not ready for this conversation
I
yet.
know. I'm like, oh, kitties don't die. And then she'll be like, stuffies don't die. I'm like, stuffies don't die. You're right. We're fine. If you guys didn't listen to that episode, we had to put down her favorite chicken. And it was really, really sad. But we got a rooster. So we co-parent these roosters, or these chickens, I mean, with my landlady. Like we each do like half the work and pay half the money. And so we got this rooster because we're hoping to get chicks. And she was like, well, we should let the little one name it then, because, she was so sad about her chicken.
Uh-oh.
So
Didn't she name the chicken?
She did name the chicken Pepperoni.
I remember. I was thinking, what was the name? I always remembered it was something funny.
Pepperoni was her favorite chicken, yeah. So we thought it would be something like that again, like a random object or food. But she named it Gauntley.
Okay.
Where did she get that?
She just made it up.
Gauntley.
She just makes up names. And
that sounds like medieval, like King Arthur
Sir Gauntley.
times. Yeah.
So then Tabby, who owns the chickens with us, was like, well, maybe we should name it Copper, because it's like a copper Moran. So now half the people call it Copper and half the people call it Gauntley, because then my middle child is like, thinks the 4-year-old should get whatever she wants, so she calls it Gauntley. But my oldest calls it Copper.
Gauntley Copper. Okay.
That's what I said, or Copper Gauntley.
I
anyway.
like Copper Gauntley.
And then Tammy just calls it, like, what's his name? Because she can't even, we don't even know. So he's got a crisis of identity. He's a very nice rooster.
Is that possible?
It is possible. He was raised by friends of ours with little kids who played with him since he was a chick. So he, will let the girls pick him up, and he's very nice. I know, if he was mean, he gets to be soup. That is the deal.
There you go. Actually, I have to say that I did come across, I don't know how this happened, but I came across, like, rooster TikTok
What?
on
Of course.
my page,
There would be.
right? It was just like, yeah, just random. And so there's this lady who actually has like all these roosters, and she was like trying to put a leash on them so they can go on a walk.
What?
And he was just like not having it, but they're like literally, she's cuddling with this rooster like it's a cat.
It can
Like
happen.
this. Yeah, I was like, my mind was boggled because I grew up with like going to the village to visit my grandparents and my family, and those roosters were not nice.
Oh,
like,
they can be
were
really
just
mean.
not. Yes.
But have
so
you
I'm
seen
like,
the emu? Karen the emu on
Yes.
TikTok.
Wait,
Yes.
an emu? Oh my
Yes.
There's a girl that
gosh.
just has a TikTok of her farm, and the emu is the most famous. And because she's very, very mean, and her name is Karen. And
Yeah.
and she'll just
Karen.
like run at the camera and like, and it's
Wow.
yeah. It's,
This girl does
terrifying.
not. I
You
know,
just
but
put
this
their
girl
hand
does
up, she's like,
not
"Stop."
flinch. Yeah, it's amazing. It's very impressive. Stacey,
I'm
you were
gonna
gonna say
s-
something
oh.
too.
Oh, I was just gonna say about the time that my son named just a random princess, and I put him in a book.
Okay.
So the name he came up with, he was just telling a story about Princess Prickinante.
Freaking
Ooh.
Nancy.
And I
that.
use that word in my fave. I use that.
I
I
love
killed her
that.
off in the first book, but
I feel like I can't
Spoiler.
have this name for the whole thing, but
Okay, wait. Say
Yeah,
it.
it's funny.
Percanante?
Prickinante. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
cute.
And then
I like
she was
that.
Nante for short because.
Of course, yeah.
as you do.
As you do.
So. He doesn't
That's
really know, like he
adorable.
knows, but it doesn't know. So maybe one day I'll be like, look, you made that word up. He'll be like, no, I didn't.
Right,
I
exactly.
love that.
That is very cute.
I love kid names. My older kids just named things like the snake was named Snaky and the
Mine too.
bat is Batty and whatever all. And then my little one's like
Giraffe is
Gauntley.
giraffe. Yeah.
I know. Gauntley.
And she has a stuffed elephant named Duna. And like she just like comes up with these names. She's gonna be a writer maybe. She'll be the one with like the weird
Maybe.
fantasy names.
You just put some
That's
letters
adorable.
together, call it a day.
Yeah,
Pretty much
there you
what
go.
she does, I think. Someone will be like, what's the name of this? And most little kids freeze and she just like spews out a name. And it's like, I got this, don't worry.
I got
That's
you.
talent.
That's adorable.
Yes.
I know. Names are the hardest thing for me. I can't start writing until I've named my characters because it's
Yeah.
like some people can just put name 1, name 2, character 1, character 2, and I'm like, no. Like my books have to be named, right? Like characters. And I always like having, names that mean something to me. Like they don't
Yeah.
even have to mean something for the story. They have to like either speak to me in some way as a character or whatever. Like when I named Maddie, like I knew her name before I knew any of her sisters' names. Like because she was this character in my head and I was like Maddie, like right away. Like I didn't even have to think about that. And so I knew like, who she was. But it's hard sometimes because then I'm
Yes.
like, I can't just call everybody Maddie, like all of my girls just Maddie because I love that name or whatever,
Yeah, I love that name too. And I also love Maddie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do
She's-
too. Anyway, no. Speaking about books, I think we should have a conversation about this trope because we are very excited about it. First of all, I mean, we're always excited.
I was gonna
about our
say,
tropes.
unlike those other tropes that we hate.
Yeah, exactly. No, but this one is just. I feel like this one is the most personal one to us out of all of them. Like, even if we do other tropes like enemies to lovers or whatever, this one is the one that sticks in our own books
And
all
in
the
all
time.
of them,
Yes.
yeah.
And I love
Yes.
that. And I love that we interpreted this trope differently, but also Anyway, okay, we're going to dive into it really fast. For those of you who are new to our show, each week we pick a book with a specific trope without telling you what it is. And then the following week we talk about it and we talk about the trope. So this is that episode. And we're going to start off with Hanna. And she can tell us the trope if she wants, or she can
Unveil
tell us
it?
the book. Yeah, unveil it.
Okay.
Da-da-da.
So, our trope is strong female leads, which is, I think, really interesting because it can be done in so many different ways. That's why I'm excited about this conversation. So I picked Sisters of Sword and Song by Rebecca Ross. This is a book I'd been meaning to read for ages. One of my Bookstagram friends, Heather, it is her favorite book. And every time anyone's like, what book do you recommend? She's like, Sisters of Sword and Song. And I'm always like, what book is that again? It's like, it didn't stick in my head. And then finally I like got it out from the library. And then it actually took me quite a while to get through the first quarter of it. So I think I don't know if you guys have read it, if you had that experience, or if it was just my mood, because sometimes your mood and your book just don't quite match up, even if it's awesome.
Even sometimes fantastic books are slow in the beginning. So
Yeah, there's some building to do. So this world is kind of like an ancient Greek-inspired fantasy world, but most people don't have magic. The gods and goddesses bestowed magic on certain people, and their descendants have it, and most people don't. But there's also these artifacts throughout the world. Like, each god had one artifact they left, and that will give magical powers to the person holding it. So it's kind of a political book, and there's a lot of scrambling for these artifacts and trying to figure out, like, how to keep power kind of for everybody, and not just that the super elite have all the power and then everybody else has to suffer. So it's about two sisters, unsurprisingly, from the title of the book. And I don't know how we would say her name. I say Evadne, but I don't know. It's Evadne, so you guys can tell me how you would say
I mean, that sounds good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll go with it.
And her older sister, Halcyon. So they were grew up in the olive groves, and her sister went away to be a hoplite, which is like a foot warrior in the army. And she's this amazing warrior, and she's has skills beyond the norm, she's just awesome. And her sister, Evadne, always wanted to be a mage, but she's not. Her power never came. But it was her dream. And she has a crippled foot because she was attacked by a dog when she was younger. So it's kind of it follows both of them. And Halcyon then, at the very beginning, you find out that she's been accused of murder and that she believes she's guilty, but she ran. So she gets hauled back and has to be punished for it, but Evadne, we call her Eva for a lot of it, decides to take part of Halcyon's punishment so that they're not separated for decades. So because she wants to find out what really happened. So she goes and is a servant in the household that Halcyon wronged, it's their son she killed, and Halcyon gets to go to the mines and work off her sentence. So it goes between the two of them as they try to kind of unravel what happened. And then Eva, in the end, is a scribe for a mage, because mages can't write. I don't know, it's this whole thing. Their magic makes the words flow off the page. They can't write, so they have to have scribes. So they both have these epic journeys to... Both of them save each other, and both of them save their kingdom, kind of, in the end. But I think it's so interesting because Halcyon's kind of the strong female lead that you think of when you think of strong female leads. She's physically strong. She's mentally strong. She can protect people with her, the power of how awesome she is with the sword, and she has a little bit more political clout and all those things. And Eva, in the end, is just as strong, and she does just as much, but she's quiet, and she's not physically strong. She can't fight. She has a crippled foot, and she probably wouldn't be a good fighter anyway. It's just not her thing. But it's just her strength of will and the support she can lead to people that helps them accomplish things, and just her steadfastness in it. So I just love that. I love the contrast of the two sisters, and just how much they loved each other and saw the strength in each other even more than in themselves sometimes. And I thought it was really beautiful by the end, and it has a very cute romance. So by the end, I was just oh, this is my favorite thing I've ever read. And it's a standalone.
Who has the romance?
Right.
Eva does.
Okay.
Halcyon killed her guy at the beginning, so that didn't work out. For reasons you find out later. Yeah, poor Halcyon. But Eva, it's between her and the maid she's working for, so they kind of it's this slow thing, and it's
Rebecca
very
loves that.
cute. It's so cute, and you see, it's from her point of view, but you can see his feelings too, and they have to go through this epic thing together and battle the darkness, and it's very...
That's cute. Rebecca has the best romance. I love her slow burn.
It's so slow burn. At the beginning, you're is there even going to be romance? And then by the end, you're oh my goodness.
Slow burn's my favorite.
Yeah, she's really good at that. I love her. I haven't read this one. I have it on my Kindle. I haven't read it, but I read her duology, the Queen's Rising, I think it's called. And I love, love, love those books so much. Her writing is so beautiful, and the romance in that is really like beautiful as well. But she definitely writes strong girls in different ways every time too, which is really great.
Yeah, I'm excited to read more of her books. And I just love, I don't know, I haven't written as many books as any of you guys have. I've got like one novel and 2 novellas out. But I always think about like what it takes to make a strong female character. And because my books, like I write fairy tale retellings, and the girls start in the human world. And they're human girls, all of mine so far. So it's just not like realistic to have them suddenly become like warrior princesses.
Right.
They're like, you're like, well, I studied with the sword for a week and now I'm awesome. I'm gonna take you all on. Or like, I don't know, like they don't necessarily have hidden magic, or I don't know. I love the idea that we all have strength, and that I think a lot of it just is our strength of will and our ability to like fight for people and things we believe in, and that doesn't necessarily mean using a sword.
Right.
It can be however just out of loyalty and steadfastness is something which I've always loved in fairy tales. I always think of the fairy tale of Tamlin. Do you guys know that one?
No.
Okay, so it's like this there's this human couple, and the man gets stolen by the fairy queen, and believes he's lost, and then she sees she's out in the forest, and she sees a fairy procession go past, and she sees her lover with the fairy queen, and he doesn't recognize her, and she like knocks him off his horse and is like, no, you can't have him, like you stole him from me. And the queen says that she can keep her lover if she can hold on to him until morning. And she has him like transform into like all these different beasts and creatures and things to try and like get away, and all the girl has to do is hold on. And she holds on until morning and like saves her lover, and he's comes back to her. And like it's my favorite
It sounds really
trope.
cute.
So,
it makes me think of A Court of Thorn and Roses.
well, that's why they call
and how it compares,
Tamlin.
but
Yeah, because it's Tamlin.
It's like
there are definitely
Tamlin, but yeah.
She definitely used that. I mean, you could find the parallels. Yeah, but interesting. It sounds like a cool story. I've never read it.
Yeah, it's just a short little fairy tale, but it always stuck with me just because that is my idea of strength, is like that you just don't give up on people you love, and you're willing to do anything to get them back.
Yeah.
I thought a lot of Annette Marie when I was talking about strong female leads, because I didn't use her book, but she tends to, and we all know I'm a fangirl. She writes women who are physically weaker than the men in the story, almost always. But they have their own form of strength. And I think specifically of Tori in Three Mages and a Margarita, who she's fierce and snarky, but she never gains any more she has some ways that she can use magic, but she doesn't have magic herself. She stays human. And I love her as a character, even though I usually prefer the really strong female. Like, I want them to be powerful.
Yeah.
But she's still my favorite author for a reason, even though she tends to have her female characters physically weaker. So you can do it. And it can be done really, really well.
Yeah. I think there's a whole lot of power in the ordinary. And I think a lot of times that's overlooked. So, yeah, I mean, I think an ordinary person can be super strong. Yeah.
And maybe that's what, like, we just need to realize, even in fiction, like, we would think, well, I would be strong if I had magic, or I would be strong if I had a sword, or something like that. But to realize that, that we are strong already.
Yeah.
I think your relationships are one of the things I always find fascinating. Like, that's what makes you strong. Even in Harry Potter, which obviously is not strong female lead. But at the end of it, it's like he brings in all of these relationships that he's created to help him fight. And I love when stories do that.
Yeah.
It's definitely that heroine's journey that we talked about. Yeah. Yeah, because it's like ordinary people, really. Even with magic, if you think about it, like, you can have a witch, just a regular witch, still be stronger than who she is, even though she has magic, because of the circumstances she's in and she has to overcome, and the people that are around her and stuff like that. Like, I mean, with Maddie, like, I mentioned her earlier. She is an ordinary witch that's just water magic, right?
Yep.
And she does have like a specialty that she discovers later, but even before then, she and her sisters overcome a lot just by the strength of their family and just by who they are and their perseverance against, this big bad. And you're right. It's just like everybody has that strength, within them, even ordinary people. But if you surround yourself with the right people, like that even builds on that.
Yep.
So
yeah. And in the final life series in my books, Dominique doesn't have any powers at all. And so she is strengthened by her love for her family and her friends. And so she definitely finds a lot of ordinary strength in her to face all of her challenges, which was what I loved writing about her, because she was ordinary. She kept wondering sometimes, why am I ordinary? Why can't I do some of these things that she thinks that she should be able to do? And she just doesn't. So she finds her strength just in the normal everyday way of finding strength, So it was cool. Yeah. It was cool writing her, and sometimes I miss her.
You have to sneak in a short story sometimes.
Yeah. Just have her show up randomly. I have one of my favorite characters, Callisto. She shows up in a series that's like completely unrelated.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, technically it's not unrelated because I made it relatable, but in the beginning I was like not gonna have anything to do, but then I'm like, no, I'm gonna connect all my books. It's fine.
I think people love that.
Yeah, the connecting is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. All right, well, Rose, talk about your book since you were just talking. Yeah.
Okay, so I read Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, and oh my gosh, I have so much to say about this book. I don't even know where to begin. So let me begin with the beginning. Okay. So Hanna,
good place.
Yeah. So Hanna, you mentioned that it took a little while for you to get into the Sisters of Sword, and with Sorcery of Thorns, man, I was sucked in immediately.
Me too. When I read it,
Holy
I loved it from the beginning.
So okay. In the beginning of the book, it starts with this scene where this ordinary girl is in this library, and she is and you're learning about the world during this scene, which is so clever the way she wrote it. So she's in this library, and she's with the head librarian, which is called a director, and they are... it's kind of a spooky atmosphere. It's dark and it's kind of cloudy and rainy and all this stuff. And they're all kind of in hushed voices, and they're trying to go out to this carriage to bring in this book that has, it's a grimoire. So it's been a demon in a book. So it's been wrapped up in all these chains, and it's locked. And you discover who she is from this one scene, because the director is like, I am asking you to help me bring this book in because you have a special gift with books, because this girl is an apprentice. Her name is Elizabeth, and she's the protagonist. So she has this gift with these books where she can kind of like relate to them and understand them, because all of these magical books are in these libraries. And there are 6 libraries in this fantasy world. The library that she is in, she was actually dumped there on the doorsteps as an infant. And the director brought her in, and instead of sending her to an orphanage, she was kind of growing up a little bit in the library. And the director noticed that she had these skills with these books, right?
Okay.
So you kind of figure out in this one scene of bringing in this wrapped up book of eyes, you figure out that our protagonist is an orphan. She was dumped there at the library. She was brought in as an apprentice. She was kept there because she has these special powers. And then as the book scene goes to another scene, this is all very, very in the very, very beginning. That night, somebody breaks into the library to steal this book, and the director ends up getting killed. I'm not giving anything away because it's all very in the beginning. And so Elizabeth is the only one in the entire library that has awoken that something is up. Like, she's got these senses. So she's up and it's dark and she's walking around and she's thinking, why is everybody asleep? And so she sees the director dead on the floor. She sees that the book is missing and the director has a sword. And so she gets the sword because she's like, I have to protect the library because everybody else is out. You know, they're all asleep or they've been taken out by sorcery or whatever. So she's an ordinary girl, which I love. And she's got this task to protect the library and she has to go out. And this is a quote from the book because I loved it so much. So she's holding this sword and it's heavy and she's young. So everything is kind of like, you know, a big deal. She's like, Demon Slayer, that's the name of the sword. Demon Slayer grew heavy in her hands at last. She was no hero, just a girl in a nightgown who happened to be holding a sword. That line just grabbed me because I was like, this is a girl that's a hero in a fantastical world, but an ordinary girl. And so the book takes off after that one scene. Like all of this happens in one scene. And so basically she's trying to figure out what happened. She's the only person awake when this happens at the library. So she is targeted. They think she is the one that killed the director. She's like, no, I loved the director and I love the library and I love the book. So why would I do that? And so she's sent away for questioning. And then, of course, there's this gorgeous sorcerer boy that gets involved because he had actually met her before and he sensed a little something special in her. So as her journey continues, she is motivated by finding out what happened to the director, by clearing her own name and trying to figure out why somebody would go into the library and steal this book, right? So it is so, so amazing. And then there is this one scene where Elizabeth is in the sorcerer's house, and I don't know if I want to say the entire plot line, but she's in this, I mean, I kind of want to. She's in this house, and she discovers this mirror that she can actually see her friend through. And the way it happens is that she feels like she's all alone because she is all alone. And she misses her best friend at the library. Her best friend is also an apprentice. And she misses her so much. And she gets this mirror and she's like, oh, I wish I could see my friend Catrian. And then there's Catrian in the mirror. And the second that happened, I was like, oh my God, is this a Beauty and the Beast retelling? Hanna, was this
I don't think so, but I'm with you on like some of the similarities now that I think about it.
Yes, because it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, oh my God, this is Beauty and the Beast.
Magic mirrors are just fun, I think.
Yes, but she's in the library, right? She
thinks he's a beast, which is hilarious.
She thinks, yes. And so it's like, this is like almost a retelling, but it's not a retelling. But it takes so much from the Beauty and the Beast that it was like, wow, this is so cool because it took all those elements and twisted them in this brand new way into this book. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
That's funny. I'm always on the lookout for Beauty and the Beast, and I didn't think of that.
Oh my God, that is the first thing that I thought of. Because
that explains why you love it.
Yes, and she was she was like she was being questioned. She couldn't leave this mansion, so she was trapped like Belle. And I was like, this is so crazy. So
Hannah's over there like, huh.
Hannah has her thinking face on.
You're thinking her whole life right now.
Okay, so Hanna, you have to read it again because I mean,
I do have to read it again just because I love it. But
so good.
I just love in that book how she's been raised to think the sorcerers are like evil.
Yeah.
And he just like keeps joking about it, but she takes him seriously. Like she's always like saying like he'll be like, I don't remember them, but she'll like drinking the blood of orphans and things like
Yeah.
that. She's like, oh, I knew it.
Yes. Well, she's like super naive because she has been
she's
in
very sheltered.
Very sheltered. She's very naive. She's been in this library her entire life. She's 16 years old when she finally goes kind of out into the world, and all she knows is the stuff that she has read. And all she knows are like, you know, rumors and all these things. And so she thinks that this gorgeous guy who's a sorcerer, number one, she's like, oh my gosh, he's a sorcerer. He's so young, because she thought like a sorcerer had to be really old and kind of, you know, gnarly looking.
That's funny.
And he was young and just beautiful. He was beautiful. And she was like, you're a sorcerer? And he was joking with her. He's like, you're an apprentice? Like, I loved him. He was so funny.
He's so funny.
Yes. And so
and then Silas. Did you not love Silas?
Oh,
Now we just have to
yes.
talk about it for a minute.
Okay, so Silas is the sorcerer's demon. And there's a lot of mystery about who he is that's revealed throughout the book, but he is basically the demon servant to the sorcerer. And Elizabeth this whole time is trying to figure him out. Like, oh my gosh, he doesn't have a hand, he has a claw? And she's like, what happened? He's making me feel so calm by talking to me when I should be freaked out, because he's using all these like demon powers on her the whole time. And she's trying to figure out like everything that's going on around her, because she's just so like naive to the world, and it's so cool. But I keep going back to the fact that she's a hero, but she's ordinary. Like, she doesn't have any powers. I mean, she does have like a special connection to the books. And I'm not going to say anything about the end, because I know it's kind of a new book people are still reading. But Hanna, I was a little bit disappointed because I never figured out, it never said who she was, right?
Like who her parents were?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it did. I think it's just like didn't matter in the end.
It didn't matter, but I wanted to know.
Because it's a mystery?
Yes, I wanted to know. Like, I kept thinking there was going to be a big reveal at the end. Like, oh, her parents are so and so. But it was like, number one, it didn't matter, but I still wanted to know. I felt...
Yeah, I kind of like that they didn't say anything, though. I haven't read this book. Speaking of books that you read at the wrong time when you're feeling... I've tried reading that book twice.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah?
I just wasn't... Yeah, I couldn't get into it at all.
I read a quarter of it and stopped, but I plan on reading more. I really liked it.
But yeah, it's just that mood. You're like, we're
just shaking my head at you guys, and it's okay.
I stopped
It
at the lull.
happens.
There was a spot,
I know.
like a third of the way through, that like everything is kind of tied up.
Yes.
And the guy leaves. And
because the next big thing hasn't happened?
Yeah, her conflict is kind of resolved, and we're kind of like, okay. And then, so it was easy to put it down and just like, I didn't have to pick it up, so I never did. I want to.
Yes.
Yeah, I do like that they didn't... Okay, so back to what I was saying. I do like that they didn't reveal who she was, like where she came from, because I feel like that speaks to her character. Like, in the end, like, it's her who did whatever she did, because I'm assuming she like overcame and found out and whatever.
Presumably,
all that stuff. Presumably, well. Yeah, because it's a standalone, so
I
would just
to read it.
But I don't know. I think that's cool that she can speak for herself in terms of like, it doesn't matter where she comes from. It's what she made of herself.
You know, you're right. The thing that's also so cool about her is she was just super duper brave. She was not afraid of anything. There was this one scene and she's in this dark alley and there's all these demons that are attacking the sorcerer.
Right, yes.
Yes. And he was like, get out of the way. And she's like, what? She goes, I don't think so. I'm going for that demon. And then she like grabs her sword and runs for the demon. And he's like, huh? And so, yes. And she is just driven by like her sheer will and her bravery. And she's not even trying to be brave. She just is brave. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it was super, super cool. But I do feel like I wanted some more big reveals. when you figure out who the bad guy is, you keep thinking that he's not the bad guy, but then he is the bad guy. And it's like, what?
I think it's like the problem with standalones sometimes
Standalones.
too.
Yep, that's what I was
like
gonna
so
say.
much of that book had to go into like the character and the world building and then it's only so long.
Yeah. And then I did
That's why I would have been nice if it had a sequel.
Yeah, we're used to sequels.
Yes.
We're used to having that more.
Yes, and so there was a little bit. I agree with you, Stacey. There was a little bit of a lull in the middle, and it was like,
Isn't that where the romance is, though?
well, the romance.
Stacey's like, yeah, but he didn't have wings or horns, so
He had a demon
But
servant.
he has a
like, give
demon,
us
so I'm
some
okay with it.
slack.
But
that's true.
no, it was at the point where he leaves. Like,
Yes.
you watch him walk away, and I was like, okay, well, okay. Guess I can...
Okay,
Like,
100%. When he left her, because he's like, okay, I'm passing you on to somebody else to figure
good now.
out. And when he leaves, it's like, okay, is he going to come back? It took him a while to come back. And
He does come back.
he does, but the
Spoiler.
point.
I'm like,
He
okay,
did.
spoilers for everybody who hasn't read this. Like, there's a whole book right there.
You better
Thanks,
know
Rose.
he comes back.
Hey, this came out a
Well,
long
yeah.
time ago, so they should know. So
They,
The
me,
two
right?
of you and Stacey.
You mean Stacey?
I assumed he came.
So anyway, the romance is a very, very small thing in the book. It's not a romance. So I was okay with that. However, I also wanted more romance. But I was okay
I wanted
with it.
more of everything. I think that's why I wish it wasn't a standalone.
Yeah.
Even though it was a satisfying end to it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want more of that world. I want more of the characters. I would like a more drawn out romance. I also have to
Me
say,
too.
just as a side note, that I'm not saying I'm a sorcerer, but I do have a white streak.
Yes.
And I do have a giant fluffy cat, so I'm not saying that I'm not.
Your name is not Silas.
Should name my next cat that.
Yes. So it was really good. I highly recommend it. And it's, one more thing about it that I don't read a lot of the younger YA, and this to me was a much younger YA. So
Okay.
she's 16, and a lot of things that happen it makes sense when you think, oh, wait a minute, she's only 16. I can't really think about her as being like, 18 crossing into 19. She's only 16, and so she's got this naivete about her that's also related to her age. And so sometimes when I was reading it, I was like, oh, I have to remember she's only 16. So just another thing to keep in mind.
And a 16-year-old with like no life experience.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
'Cause she's
I remember
been
when
in
I was
this
first
library
reading
the
it
whole
thinking
time.
like it feels a little middle grade, which I like middle grade, so
Yes.
that was not a problem. But
I
it did have a little bit of...
Do not let your middle grade age children read it to the end.
Oh.
I would say.
Maybe that's why I had
the
problems
romance
with
hits
it.
higher than middle grade. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Which I was
Uh-oh.
surprised by because I didn't think the tone. I wasn't expecting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it was
Now
like,
that you know really the whole.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
what else can we tell you about it?
Well, you clearly had more than one chance to read it. So.
Yeah, I think now that you say that it's more middle grade
Yeah.
sounding, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Because I don't read middle grade.
I like middle grade.
And yeah, so which is hilarious to me, Stacey. It feels like so different from what you love, but
Middle grade
that's
can
awesome.
be so creepy though. I feel it's like you and Abby love the middle
I
grade.
have read middle grade books where I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep reading this. It's creepy.
I know. I'll start reading to my kids and I'm like, I'm giving them nightmares.
Maybe I've just been reading wrong middle grade books.
Last
You guys should make me a list.
Creeped me out a little.
And they
That's
usually
another
don't have
book.
any romance to lighten it, so I'm like, I'm
Right.
just stuck
Yeah.
here with the
Yeah.
creepiness.
You're just
Jeepers.
stuck. That's funny. One of these days I'll give middle grade a try again. I don't know what
I
it
can
is.
give you some
and
Rex.
yeah.
Yeah, try the
Sure.
School for Good and Evil. That's a good one to like. It's almost young
Ease you
adult.
into.
and,
Oh, wait,
like,
which
I
one?
think
Stacey.
I think somebody recommended that to me. The School for
Good
Good
and
and
Evil.
Evil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
maybe. Wait, do I have that book?
Somewhere
I might.
back there.
Somewhere back
I
there.
see your
think it's over
bookshelves.
here.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah, I think I do have it because I think that one is the one that's been recommended to me a lot.
I always recommend Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe because it's got like kind of almost a classic feel, even though it's not that old. But it's one of my very favorite books, and it's middle grade, and I don't usually read much middle grade.
Yeah.
I should read it.
But
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about it, and I watched part of the movie, but
part of the movie.
I watched the
Stacey.
movie, but I haven't read it.
Stacey. It's only my favorite movie. I'm not
Stacey
that
just
hurt.
does things
Really?
in halves. She's
I
just
do,
like,
no.
bored.
I read half of the book
I'm
you
a
like and
whim
watched half of the
person.
movie.
I just like, I'm in the mood for this, and then something else
And
to
then the
do,
mood is
and-
gone.
It's only an hour and a half long. How long are your movies?
Wait a minute, that's your
She was in
homework.
that mood for 30 minutes, okay?
That's
Watch
your
the
new
second
homework,
half of
Stacey.
House
30-minute
Castle.
increments, yeah.
All right, well, Stacey, you can talk
Stacey.
about your book. Did you finish this one?
No.
Oh no.
Are you serious?
But I'm like, because
Do
I
you
ran out of
see
time.
how I was like, I just knew it.
No, I'm like 75% of the way.
Oh my
through it.
gosh,
Okay.
you're so funny.
I wasn't going to say that, but since you called me out.
Yeah, it's fine. We're good.
So I read Furyborn by Claire Legrand, and it's a fantasy story. It has two strong female protagonists, and their stories are set literally over 1,000 years apart.
Ooh.
Okay.
And it's about a prophecy, so it's based around a prophecy, that there are two queens. One is the Blood Queen, and one is the Light Queen, or whatever. The Blood Queen's gonna, like, destroy the world, and the Light Queen's gonna save it. And so, presumably, the two girls are these two queens, and you're kind of trying to figure out who's which.
Okay.
One of the queens, they start out as just girls. They're just they're not even princesses. They're just girls that are kind of, like, in royalty in some way, shape, or form. The one's like best friends with the prince, and we find out one of them, like, as you're jumping, you kind of see one's history about the other, so you have to piece these things together to figure out the plot to an extent, and it was really hard on the audiobook. I think it would have been a lot easier if I had the physical book and I could kind of compare some things.
Yeah.
But I actually pulled up, like, a Wikipedia page or whatever that had a plot line at some point, so I could kind of,
Cheat
like,
sheet.
do the... Yeah, because I
Yeah.
got a little lost a time or two. So this is one I definitely suggest the physical book, not audiobook. But we find out that one of them is the bad queen, which is still questioning because I haven't gotten to the end yet. But, like, according to history, is the bad queen. So I'm curious how we get there.
Okay.
But it's interesting because we find out that she has this great power, and she's feared because of it. I think that if she becomes the bad queen, I think the reason is because of the way people treat her for her power, because they fear her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm still seeing how all this plays out. It's
No
interesting.
spoilers because you haven't read. You haven't
Right, yeah.
finished it. So that's good because I gave away all the spoilers. Sorry.
This is one that I did start and didn't finish.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm not gonna finish, but I'm not surprised Stacey's enjoying it more than me.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty dark for me.
Oh.
I can't remember exactly. I just remember being like, it's one of those, I'm like, this feels really kind of stabby and dark, and I wasn't really connecting with either of the characters enough.
I'm not, like, super invested in either of their stories, which it feels more like high fantasy than it feels young adult, I think.
Ah.
Some
Yeah.
people who are, like, really into, like, high fantasy and, like, really twisty, complex world building will probably be more into it, I think.
Yeah, I think the tone is a little more that way.
Yeah, I heard the people that once the third book came out, like the trilogy got so much hype because it just everything connected. You had like the
Yeah.
full story and stuff like that, and I saw it everywhere.
It might be really
because
fascinating
of
once we
that.
really get there, because the
Mhm.
way these are twisting, and I don't even know.
Yeah.
I can already see how they might go. So if she pulls it off, it could be really, really ridiculously cool, the plot.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. So I haven't read it yet, which is kind of ridiculous because I met the author at BEA and she was signing my book, and like 5 minutes before she found out that she hit the New York Times bestseller with that
Oh,
book.
Nice.
So like the energy was just so adorable, and she was just like, and so I'm like, congrats, and she's
Aw.
just like, yeah, thanks. Like it was just so cute, and so
That's
I
awesome.
automatically was like, I need to read this book, but I just haven't because I'm terrible at reading. We all know this, but
I am too.
I heard so much hype when the third book came out, so I'm really curious to see how that works out, because I do actually really want to read it. I think that book is actually on my Sorcery of Thorns and The Furyborn are both on my read the 21 books in 21.
You can do it.
I'm doing so bad at this. It's like
I was
halfway
gonna
through the
ask
year.
how you were doing with that.
I think Sorcery of Thorns is like my top of. I started reading, I haven't finished, but I have to get back to it at some point. I think that's my
Okay.
number one book for that.
Nice. Well, we're not gonna talk about my list anymore. let's just leave
She's
it
like,
at
avert
that.
the
Yeah.
attention away from the list.
I tend to like women who are like physically powerful,
Just strong.
Yes.
some exceptions.
Yeah.
And I write those too.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
you do.
yeah. My female character is like, she hides the fact that she's super powerful, and it comes out eventually. But that was fun to write. I think I like to have that like surprising factor of other people underestimate you, and then you turned out to be really kick-ass. So
Yes,
I love that trope too. And
that is fun.
I think you did it well. I like that. Yeah, like the like hints at it, and you're like, ooh, just like waiting for her to unleash.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, speaking of stabby books, Hannah,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
let me talk about my book that you should never read.
Oh.
So I read Kill the Queen by Jennifer Estep, and I loved it so much.
Really?
I really need to read like I read this one and book 2, and I need to read the third one. I'm trying to think if there's going to be a fourth one. I haven't read book 3, so I don't know if it's a trilogy or if it's going to continue on. But oh my gosh, it was so good. It was so stabby.
Wow.
It was the greatest time. Anyway,
Yay.
let me tell you about it. So, the way it was presented is Gladiator meets Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
So a
And,
stabby
like-
thing meets a stabby thing.
Yes, basically. And like I didn't read Game of Thrones or watch the show, but I know enough about it that I was like, okay, high fantasy, basically. That's where we're at, you know? So basically in this world, in this realm, the magic that you possess determines your worth. And we meet our main character, Lady Everly, and she does not have any magic. So she lives in the royal court because she is 17th in line for the throne. And so basically she's just like overlooked in everything because she doesn't have magical powers and she's 17th in line for the throne. So it's like, who cares about this person, right? And the only thing Hannah would like is all the talk of pie because she loves like baking stuff and everything. So
There you go, Hannah.
it's such a great.
There should
yeah,
definitely
it's
be more books with baking in them.
it's true. But anyway, so Evie is, she's just forgotten completely everything. But then her cousin, Vasilisa, which is the crown princess, she assassinates the queen and takes the throne by force.
Ooh.
And basically like murders the royal family. But what we don't know, or this is in the back of the book, so it's not like a spoiler, but Evie does have actually like a magical immunity. It's like her secret immunity to magic actually helps her escape like this massacre that happens, right? So she is forced into hiding, and what she does is she joins a gladiator troop.
Nice.
Troop. Okay.
It's like a traveling circus
Yeah.
but with murder.
Yeah, basically, but gladiators. And so they use their talents to entertain, but what you don't know is that they're actually like highly trained, skilled warriors. Okay.
How
and
clever.
like they can like kick your butt. And enter the gorgeous, adorable
Yes.
Lucas. He's like a powerful magician and he has like a secret on his own. So he trains her, and there's like, of course, training scenes. You know me and training scenes.
Who doesn't like
but
training
she-
scenes though, really?
I know, right? But she does begin training with them and kind of like, you know, becomes friends with these people, not really easily because they're all very standoffish and secretive because they have this like found family in this, you know, troop and stuff. But yeah, so the queen now that took, you know, Vasilisa, her cousin, does not make good choices and she wants to go to war. And so Evie's fate is kind of in a place where she has to become the greatest gladiator herself because
Wow.
she is on a mission to kill the queen and save her kingdom basically and avenge her family and all this stuff.
I love that.
So that's
It does
it's the
sound a lot like
premise
Gladiator.
of the book.
I want to go
Yes,
to
and-
gladiator school.
I know, right?
I don't.
I do.
I do too, actually. No, this was so good. It's very slow burn. It is not
Ooh.
YA. It's she's 28, I think, in the
Oh.
beginning of this book, which I loved because she still has that I guess like naivety when it comes to the world, because she's just basically spent her whole life in court, and she's spent her whole life being overlooked because of, you know, who she is, and she doesn't have magical powers, whatever. And she does have some strong relationships within, like with the servants and, you know, with certain people in the court, which is the part that I loved about Evie. So she's this like super ruthless, really strong woman that she becomes because of this, but she's also kind and caring, and that's what makes her strong. Is those relationships, growing up and becoming that woman that she is. Like that's what takes her into the troop. And when she does become like the, you know, gladiator-esque warrior, she still carries that kindness and that care and, you know, that within her. And I just love that so much. It just shows that like you can have this really strong sword wielding heroine, but still somebody who is kind and who is caring about the people that are important to her and about the kingdom. Like she literally could have just left. Like that's the thing. It's like she's 17th in line for the throne. Like she survives this massacre and she can just leave. Like nobody's asking her to come back and kill the queen to save her kingdom. But she does, because that's like who she is. That's like just her heart. Like her heart is pure for the people and for the kingdom and everything.
Is that the end?
And
Did you just give away the end?
No.
Okay.
That's like her mission.
Okay.
Her
in
motivation.
Book 1.
Okay.
Yeah, that's her motivation. Yeah, that's book 1. That's all book 1.
Wow.
In the back of the book, like they tell all of this in the back of the book. But I'm just saying, like, it shows in the story just how much that, like, and maybe somebody else in her shoes would have just left, but she doesn't. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, she does goes into hiding, but then she comes back and is like, now I can really take her on and stuff, the queen. But yeah, you really get a lot of her growing into herself and becoming this new Evie. Like she's, you know, Lady Everly when she's in court, but she becomes this Evie, which is the gladiator. And really love the world building. And there's a really slow burn romance that I loved. There's not really that much romance in the first book. It comes in a little bit more in the second book, but like, it gives enough that you're just like, oh, I want to see this happen. Like, where is this, you know?
Wow.
But it's definitely a very stabby book, which I love.
I
but,
want
you
to get this
know,
book like yesterday. A kind
Yes.
gladiator. I mean, that's like a really cool combo.
right?
Yes.
I love that about her, because when I write my girls, obviously I want them to be kind. I write them kind because I think you have to be kind in this world that's so unkind.
Yep.
You know, it's weakness to show kindness most of the time, but I feel like if you know, write somebody that is kind and strong at the same time, it shows people that you can be both, you
I
know?
love that.
And I think it's just like so important as a writer. Like, obviously, I want people to come away from my books not just by having a good time, but by seeing either, you know, themselves in my books, or just seeing something that they see for like in a different way. Like, for example, being kind and strong at the same time. And I just think this book did this well. And it was, you know, slow going. It is more high fantasy. So there's more world building. There's more, you know, less romance and stuff like that, which is unusual for me because I'm more driven by character. But I think this high fantasy is driven by character enough that I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And not, you know, because of that. But yeah, and it did definitely make me hungry because they talked about pie and bread all the time. I was like, stop. It's like midnight. I can't
That
eat
is
right now.
awesome.
But yeah, I would recommend to read it if you want something that's like a little bit different than your usual high fantasy or usual like romantic fantasy or whatever. But
I'm just
Yeah.
looking at the cover, and I would not have thought it was high fantasy by the cover.
Mhm.
I think I've seen it before, and I
Oh.
assumed it was adult urban fantasy.
I'm going to look up the cover.
urban fantasy, yeah, so that's why I picked it up, right? Because I don't really read high fantasy. I'm very specific about my high fantasy or epic fantasy or anything like that. But I picked it up because I thought it was urban fantasy, because that's what she writes. Like, her other series is urban
I wonder
fantasy.
if that's why they gave her a cover like that. So, like, to
Maybe
be more like her other cover. I haven't seen her other
Oh.
ones.
Yeah.
I'm
but-
looking at the
right,
cover
'cause
right
she's, like-
now.
yeah, she's like black leather.
Yeah.
Huh.
But the world building is
could
definitely
work, but it just doesn't clue you in. I mean, there's a castle in the background, but
yeah. But if it's a gladiator, she's not gonna be in a gown.
What?
But
That is a very
yeah,
interesting cover.
I love the
Yeah,
cover.
me too.
I like the cover for all of them. Actually, I think the second cover has like the guy on it. You still don't see their faces, and then the last cover also has her. I think again, but it's like a different. I think it's green or something.
And the other two look more fantasy.
Okay. Maybe it's the gray. The gray on the cover.
There's like a cloak on book 2, and then book 3's got armor. But book 2, she's kind of like leather.
Yeah, I think her clothing looks modern-ish in book 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe.
It almost looks like a t-shirt. Like it's black, so you can't really tell, but like it almost looks like it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I definitely had different expectations when I picked it up because I thought it was more urban fantasy.
It's nice that it was still good then. Sometimes it's fun to be surprised if it turns out well.
Right, exactly.
You're like, I might not have picked this up, but you tricked me into it. Now I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I loved just, seeing just a different way a strong heroine can be written while still being strong. But yeah.
I love all of these covers. I'm looking at it right now. Wow.
Rose is just like purchasing off Amazon.
Yeah, she's
the
just
corner
like,
while
hold on
we're
a second.
Gladiator meets Game of Thrones. Yes.
Yeah, see that they really know their audience because a lot of people picked it up because of that. So
sold. I'm sold.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
I need to really come up with a good comp for my books then.
Yeah, right?
Just a three-word thing.
Cool.
Well, actually, I'm gonna Hannah, I'm gonna take your turn in recommendations because
How dare you?
I know. I can do whatever I want, okay? No, I'm just kidding.
She'll just re-edit it if we
yeah,
talk
you
over her anyway.
can.
True. Be like, I'm just gonna remove this part. It's fine. No. Speaking of good, like, not catchphrases. What is the name of it? Like
comp titles.
Tagline. Yeah, there you go. So I wanted to recommend a book if you guys like strong heroines. One of our own queens wrote that is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. But it's Beauty and the Beast. It's ACOTAR meets, or Beauty and the Beast, ACOTAR, whatever, meets Bridgerton. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Yes. So I thought that was like a really cool.
And she definitely has all those vibes in it. Like sometimes
exactly
when people say it's like this meets this, you're like, well, is it though? But it really does feel.
But it really is.
Like little Bridgerton vibes in it. Yeah, I beta read it and I just loved it. And it made me laugh so much because I also have a Fae Beauty and the Beast retelling, and they're like so different.
So different. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Really
you have to
fast.
say what it is.
Called yes, I was like, I didn't say the title. Curse of the Wolf King by Tessania Adet. That's the book we're talking about. Sorry. And yeah, it is ACOTAR meets Bridgerton. And it's a standalone fairy tale Beauty and the Beast retelling. And it's like wolf shifters and fae and royalty and very adorable romance that I love.
And a season. The whole like Bridgerton thing.
It's so good, you guys. Okay, if you liked any of the books we mentioned, like check this one out because you're gonna get all the feels. Like that's just where we're at with it. Yeah, and like Hannah said, it's adorable how Hannah's and Tess's books are Beauty and the Beast retelling, but like they're so different, but still both of them just like are so good, and they both have really strong female leads that are like inspiring, and I love that. So
we're both drafting Cinderella right now, which is really funny because we'll like message each other and be like, Cinderella's so hard to write.
Cinderella.
Yes. Definitely. But now, Hannah, you can recommend your book.
Oh, can I? No.
Yes, I'll allow it.
Oh, thank you. So I'm gonna recommend. Well, it's a series. It's Lindsay Buroker's Death Before Dragons series. And it's not young adult, but it has all the things I love in young adult. I always try and think like why I love young adult, right? So it's got like some romance, and it's got a lot of banter and a snarky heroine, and it's a little bit more lighthearted than a lot of urban fantasy that I've read. It's less like a little less angsty and dark. So just gonna click over. I was like, what are their names? Her name is Val, and she is a half-elf bounty hunter who, so it's like Earth like our Earth, but there's, you know, all these different races and things there. And when they get out of line, she's the one the government sends to, like, take people out or solve the problem of, you know, rampaging ogres, killing people or whatever. So she has to deal with it. She's 40, or in her 40s, which I loved because sometimes you get tired of reading teenagers. And she is like this kick-butt woman with a big sword that's magical and also a magical, snarky sidekick tiger. But then she, at the beginning of the first book, it turns she has asthma, and so she's having to go to the doctor to figure her asthma out, and then the doctor's like, well, you're too stressed out, so she has to go to therapy, and she's trying to, like, do yoga and, like, all this stuff, and she's like, oh, like, what even is this, and, like, all this stuff to, like, calm her down. So it's, like, kind of like that cliche of, like, the strong one, but then you're like, but what are the repercussions of that? And then also she's learning throughout the books, like, she's always pushed everyone away to keep them safe. So she has, like, a daughter, but she has, like, had no contact with her because she doesn't want her to, like, get in trouble with all the bad guys she deals with and things like that. So then over the series, she's also trying to learn how to, like, open up and have relationships with people. So it's kind of like going from, like, the most, like, cliche strong female lead whatever to, like, humanizing and, like, the things that you actually need. And then there's a funny dragon shifter is the male lead, so if you like dragon shifters,
nice.
Sounds good.
They're really fun. I've read 7 or 8 of them now.
Wow.
7,
okay.
And she just wrote book 8, so they're fun, and it's a long series that's still entertaining me. So sometimes, like, after book 5, you're like, is this still going?
Yeah.
What is going on?
That makes sense. Okay, yeah, I'm adding that to my list because that sounds right up my alley. Rose, you had a book.
Yes.
Yeah, you had a book too.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
So I recommend Jen L. Gray's The Marked Wolf series. So I can't say a whole lot about the series because I actually just got book 1. And I was drawn to it because, number one, I love the cover. The cover has like this cool woman in the front and this wolf behind her, and he's howling in the moon. And it's just like, wow, that looks really, really good. And then I read the blurb, and then, of course, Valia was telling me that it's so great. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna dive into these because I really like wolf shifter books. And I have actually written a wolf shifter before in one of my Havenwood Falls novellas, Finding Infinity and Saving Infinity. And so I really, really like wolf shifters, and I haven't read a really good wolf shifter book in a while. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to read these. So I'm excited.
Yeah, Jen writes really fun wolf shifters. I think she has 2 series now that have wolf shifters. Yeah, it is. And she's so good at it. Yeah. So it's like, keep going, girl. I'm good. I'm good here. I
always feel like I'm like wolf shifters. Like, there's so many of them. Isn't it so done? And then you read another one, you're like, oh, but it's so good though.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, I write wolf shifters all the time.
Like yours,
so.
And I wrote one too. So
yup, that's where we're at.
They're timeless. Okay. Yeah.
They are.
They really
they're
are.
Such a fun. Yeah, they're fun. Stacey, you had a book as well.
Sorry, my dog keeps barking.
That's okay.
I would recommend Audrey Gray's book, Oath Taker.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So the main character is a girl who, like, her job is to guard her best friend who's a prince. And so she's strong and she's, like, witty, and she's a really fun main character. And then she has to go on this quest to save her best friend. And
we always love it when she has to save the prince instead of the other way.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
So
I love that series so much. Like, how far have you read?
Not very far, just book 1.
Just book 1?
Yeah.
Book 1 was okay.
Yeah.
And then book 2 was better. And then book 3 was, like, incredibly good. So keep reading.
It's
and then I was like, where's
right?
book 4?
So that's part of why I'm like,
it's
book
not
4 is coming out soon?
yet. Book 5 is coming out soon.
Oh, 5. Okay.
4 of them are written. That
like
series
watching them,
has one of my number 1 book boyfriends.
Oh, really?
I have to say.
Ooh.
Yes,
Oh.
I love him. And
I
Stacey
yeah,
will
that's
love
fun.
him too.
Yes,
She goes
I
further.
know.
I know Stacey's type.
What is Stacey's type?
Interesting.
Wait.
Horns. Which
Oh.
is his type, I believe.
Accurate.
Just horns. That's it. That's the only thing.
Horns.
Per type.
There's more to it
Horns
than that.
and claws and fangs. And...
General dark and sad
Oh my
backstories.
gosh.
Okay.
You know.
What's your type? Horns.
And yet you're not wrong.
I know.
That's just so funny.
That's why it's so funny. Because we're not.
So good. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, yeah, okay. So on that note, but yeah, that was great. I knew this was gonna be a longer episode just because this trope is just so us, you know,
Yes.
and not just us four, but like all of the queens.
Yeah.
If you guys have checked out any of the Reading Queens books, like you will find a strong female lead because that's what we love and that's what we write, and we all have, you know, like we said, we all have different interpretations of it, but I love that about our group. I love that I can go to anybody, any one of the Queen's books and find that and just be inspired by it too,
Yes.
because, you know, it always does. It always inspires me. So definitely check those out. I will plug all the Queen's books. Go take a look. We have links available. I have a bookshop page set up for each episode so you guys can check out the exact books that we talked about, but also we have the website, our Instagram. All of them have links, and we have more information about each of the queens. So you guys have like ways to find us, and come find us, come talk to us. Come tell us your favorite strong heroine book, strong female lead, and yeah, that's okay. I'm gonna be done now.
Yes.
Anyway, next week, really fast before we close this, next week, Tess, Kristen, and Allison will be here, so that will be fun. I do want to know what everybody's reading, so we're gonna go around really quick and tell the listeners what we're reading this week. So Hannah,
I am reading. I'm trying to think how many books I'm reading at the moment. I'll just tell you 2.
Okay.
I'm also reading Audrey Gray, but I'm reading her 3rd Evermore Academy book.
okay,
Fun.
fun.
But it was like a little angsty for bedtime. It's not like it's dark, just sometimes at bedtime I need really specific calming books. So I'm also reading Emma St. Clair's rom-com series, which is the Love Clichés series, and they are stinking adorable. I recommend them to everyone who likes contemporary romance because they're so cute. And like, I'm just binging through them because they're just making me happy all the time. But I only have 1.5 left, and then I'll be really sad because they're gone.
And then they'll be done. That's cute. Rose, what about you? What are you reading this week?
Okay, so I'm reading Joanna Reeder's new book, Hiding a Fae Queen. I am reading that one,
Okay.
yes. So it's book 2 in her Ravencourt series. So I loved book 1, and I read an early version of book 2, and so I'm excited to read it again now that it's been out since what?
May.
Yeah.
I think it came out in May.
Yeah, so it's been out, and so I'm like, okay, now that it's out and all wrapped up in a pretty bow, I'm gonna get it on my Kindle, and I did, and so I've been reading that.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It's so interesting
that.
rereading books that you read
Yes.
early versions of. I
Early,
think.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, that's fun. All right, Stacey, what about you?
I am reading a book called Ember of Night,
Ooh.
which
Okay.
is like a brand new book that came out early May. And it's by an author that I like vaguely know from Pitch Wars back in the day. And it's Entangled, so like I kind of know
I
the
was gonna
publisher,
say, is
and-
that the Entangled one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's really, really good so far. I'm about 10%
Ooh,
of the
okay.
way in. And I debated on making this book my strong female leads book.
Oh.
And decided to get a different one. So this one's next up for sure.
Oh, nice. That one, I saw that one like everywhere in May, right? And
Yeah.
so I put it on like my wish list, but I haven't gotten around to it. So I might have to move that up. I think I will be reading Audrey Gray's Oathbreaker.
Yes, do it.
Because last time Hannah talked about it, I was like, oh, I need to move it up. And I actually did. I moved it up on my list, but then I only have it as a Kindle, and I just never went back to it. So I think I just need to
Yeah.
go
Do you
back
have an
to
actual
it
list,
and
like an
read
actual
it.
order?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
That is
I
crazy.
do. I have
crazy
multiple
girl.
lists. Okay, no, I
symbolic.
have to live my life by lists. Okay.
When I make lists of our reading, I just feel bad about myself.
I don't.
Okay, well, I don't. I feel more accomplished.
I'm glad.
So...
Well, I mean, when I'm done, I feel good, like, keeping track of how much I've done, but making a list ahead of time, because I never follow it. I'm always like, I'll read this next, and I'm like, I don't want to.
I have to make my lists very concise. Like, I have to make a list per month, and then I have to make, like, weekly lists.
A reading?
To make sure... Yeah, because I've been so bad in reading. Like, last year was, like, terrible in reading, right? Which everybody was, like, reading bazillion books, and I'm over here barely finishing one every, like, 3 months. But, so when 2021 came around, I was like, okay, I'm going to make, like, the 21 books I want to read this year list. So that one, like, gets moved down to every single month, right? Like, I will put one of the books for every month. And obviously, I'll have to read more than one book because I do know that there's less than 21 months.
Got a little dyslexia here.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, calm down. Okay, no. So, like, the summertime is usually when I read more of specific genres, right? We talked about this a little bit. So, like, my thriller stuff will all be read. Like, I'm, going through them now and stuff like that. So now I have to, like, start pulling stuff from my Kindle list because my physical one is being taken care of, but my Kindle one is suffering.
It's easy to forget what books are on your Kindle.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I read
So
mostly ebooks, but still sometimes I'm like, oh, right, that was on there.
Yeah, my 10 Kindle Unlimited spots is not enough, and I'm always like, which one? Oh wait, I don't know.
See, and I always say that's why I like Kindle Unlimited, because then I'm always like, you must read these.
You
books,
have to read,
or else you don't get a new book. Which is probably how my life should be in general.
I'll come
You
back
just like
to you.
return them.
She just returns.
That's
oh
awesome.
my gosh, that's hilarious. Well, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go do stuff and read, hopefully. But thank you for listening to the Reading Queens. Before you go, please take a moment to leave us a review and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And then stay tuned for next week. Happy reading.
Bye.